Welcome to Horror Audio Series, where the veil between worlds grows thin, and every whisper might be a warning. Here, we don't just tell horror stories. We summon them. Turn down the lights. Turn up your fear. The nightmare begins now.
Some deaths refuse to rest. Some spirits refuse to leave. When the veil thins between the worlds, the soul possessor awakens. Welcome to Soul Possessor.
Chapter 9. Blood of a Forgiveness Heart. The night wind crept gently through the forest like a beast that had lost its fangs, crawling over the scorched tree stumps, the bushes of leaves still bleeding. The altar was now a pool of black ash, where Christina had lain, now sunken, with a red burn mark, like a gouged lung. Christina did not stand up immediately. She lowered her face to the pillow, her hand still loosely holding the blood tree. Blood seeped from between her fingers, sticking to her dry lips. The sky no longer had a moon, nor did the sound of demons. There was only silence, the kind of silence that did not bring peace, as if the whole forest was holding its breath, waiting for the final evil. Behind her, the old master walked slowly. His figure leaned to the side. His shoulder was crushed. His gray shirt was soaked with blood at his side. The blind woman was supported by him, her hand wrapped in bandages made of forest leaves. Her eyes could not see, but she still seemed to see Christina very clearly. "Get up," the old man said, his voice as deep as the earth. "Your blood still flows." Christina did not reply. Her eyes were as empty as the surface of a river after a flood. The old man continued, more softly. "So, Satanas chose you, but you did not choose him, which means you are not dead." Christina blinked. A silent stream of tears flowed out. Not from pain, not from fear, just from fatigue. So tired that she was no longer angry enough to cry. The three of them left the altar before dawn. No one spoke. Each step was accompanied by the crunching of bones on the ground. Not branches, but the corpses of animals that had died from the shaking of the ritual. The wind blew through Christina's hair, carrying with it the smell of burnt skin and bone dust. She could no longer feel her flesh. Under her tattered clothes, her chest still steamed red, as if her heart had been roasted but not burned. They passed the edge of the forest, where Christina and her mother had lived, in front of the house. Her blood was still smeared. The traces of her mother who sacrificed herself to protect her were still present. Christina suddenly stopped. On the ruined roof, she saw a black butterfly clinging to a dry branch, its wings fluttering slightly as if in fear. Her eyes caught, and for a moment her mother's face overlapped the butterfly's wings, faint as a layer of smoke, her mouth smiling unhappily. "Hold on, daughter. Your father and mother will always be by your side." Christina tried to be strong, not to let the tears fall. Or maybe there were no more tears. She bowed her head and continued walking. They stopped when the sky was just beginning to lighten. The old stone temple in the middle of the old forest, once where Master Li lived and guarded, and once the first sanctuary to seal Satana's hundreds of years ago, now only cliffs and moss remained. Christina sat down, still holding the bloodwood. The old man tied the medicine to the blind woman, then sat across from Christina, speaking slowly. "There will be no more battles like the last time. Next time, there will be only one slash, either he or you." Christina nodded slightly. She did not ask when. She knew when he was strong enough to pull out of the blood prison. That was also the time when her heart no longer had enough humanity to resist. The blind woman spoke last, sitting near the fire. "Don't let hatred live for you, because if Satanus cannot kill you, he will make you kill yourself." Christina was silent for a long time. On her hand, the blood had just soaked into the wood. The crimson blood did not dissipate, but instead glowed like fire. She looked down at her palm. A voice echoed in her head, not Satanus's, but her father's. The night he stood in front of her. "Forgive me, Father, as long as I live." Christina bowed her head. Tears fell on the blood tree. The piece of wood, strangely, blossomed. A blood flower with 5 petals. Not a victory yet, but the beginning of forgiveness. The forest fire burned red one last time and then died. In the darkness of the old sanctuary, the smell of old ashes still lingered on the mossy walls. Christina sat across from the old master and the blind woman. The atmosphere was no longer one of waiting, but like before the opening of a sentence that had been sealed for hundreds of years. The old man took a deep breath, as if borrowing the last breath of the old forest. People think Satanus comes from hell. That's true, but it's not true either. He was born from the first betrayal of mankind. Not everyone can see that. Christina looked up. The blind woman nodded in confirmation. He is not just a demon. He is the memory of every betrayal that has ever happened. The cry of a child when abandoned by its mother. The embrace filled with lies. The smile filled with intrigue. He exists because the human heart leaves room for sin. And so, no one, no god, no demon, can destroy him, except the body he once chose. Christina gently squeezed the blood tree that lay across her thigh. It was still glowing red as if it remembered her blood. You are that body, Christina, the one into whom Satanus poured all his will. You are the last vessel he wants to inhabit, and also the last gateway that can pierce straight into his heart. The blind woman bowed her head, her voice dropping, as if speaking from the other side of death. There is an ancient ritual. Very few people know it. Its name is the Blood Gate. Only the bearer of the blood tree, containing the blood of the traitor, can perform it. And in that ritual, you must stab yourself, not to die, but to open the door. That stab will not kill you. It will penetrate the boundary between human blood and demon will. That was the only moment Satanus revealed his true form, and the only moment that could kill him forever. Christina remained silent. The night wind crept through the cracks in the rocks, as if shivering. The old man stood up. He led Christina to a small cellar behind the temple. The heavy stone door opened, revealing a cold stone room. Inside was the body of a man meditating motionlessly, surrounded by ancient blood characters carved in faded black ink. In front of the body was a piece of wood, also bloodwood, but it was split in two. This is the first master. He was the first to know the Bloodgate ritual, but he failed. His blood was not pure enough. It did not originate from betrayal. Satanus laughed at him and burned his soul before being sealed away. Christina knelt down. From the corpse, a faint echo rang in her head, not sure if it was a word or a chant. It is not strength, but pain that opens the final door. She closed her eyes, bowing her head deeply. When she returned to the main room, the blind woman had prepared a circle of stones. 9 small stones, representing the 9 levels of pain, with a wooden trough wrapped in red cloth in the middle. The old man placed Christina's bloodwood in the middle. The bloodwood is not enough. It needs to be reforged with your own blood. You must feed it. Turn it into the divine bloodwood blade. A living, soulful blade. Every night you will drip your blood on it. And if it does not refuse, it means it has chosen you to fight. But it could also refuse. It could drain your blood dry if it finds you unworthy. Christina did not blink. She pulled out her small knife and lightly cut the tip of her index finger. Blood dripped down, each drop soaking the red wood. No smoke, no withdrawal, just a very soft cry, like the sound of tree roots rising from the ground. The blind woman nodded slightly. It has accepted the first blood. In the coming nights, every night you will have to feed it with an old pain. So much pain that if it were a normal person, they would go mad. But if you overcome it, you will have a blade that can tear Satanas' soul in two. Christina nodded, not because she was ready, but because there was no other way. Outside, the night wind blew through the trees again. The moon had not yet risen, but in the piece of wood in her hand, a red light began to glow like a breathing heart. 3 nights of blood, 3 forgivenesses, a blade born from a living heart. The first night. Christina sat alone in the stone circle. No fire, no people. Only the blood tree in her hand, and the forest wind whispered, like the sound of bones cracking in her heart. The blind woman once said, "If you want a blade to live, you must give it blood. But not flesh and blood, the blood of a forgiving heart." Christina closed her eyes. Blood ran from her fingers onto the wood. A sudden coldness swept through. Then darkness swallowed her. A swampy field. The moon was purple like blood mixed with dew. Lucy stood in the middle of the field, her white dress soaked in mud, her eyes oozing blood. She didn't speak. She just cried. Each tear that fell turned into red insects, crawling around Christina's feet. "You promised to always be with me. You said you wouldn't let anyone catch me. But I died in front of you." Christina choked. She backed away, blood rising in her throat as if she had swallowed a knife. Lucy stepped forward, holding out her small hands, covered in ash and hair. She didn't resent, didn't get angry, just sad. "I still dream about you holding my hand. I forgive you. But have you forgiven yourself?" Christina knelt down. Blood began to flow from her chest without the knife. Her heart dripped, and bloodwood trembled slightly. She cried, not because of regret, but because for the first time, she forgave the trembling child inside her. The scene changed. A burning roof. Black smoke. Her father, with his face torn apart, his chest hollow, still stood there, one hand shielding the 7-year-old Christina. "Forgive me, Father. You weren't strong enough to protect me from the contract." Christina cried out. "Why did you hide it? Why didn't you run away with your mother? Why did you let me grow up as a living trap?" Her father didn't answer. He just walked over, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. "Because if I survive, you won't hate me enough to fight back. And if your mother survives, Satanas will have all 3 of us. We won't abandon you. We clear a path for you to walk." Christina hugged him. Another stream of blood flowed out, this time from her back, as if she had taken the blow for her father. The bloodwood burned red. The blade began to crack from the wood. The last night. The scene was as dark as a tomb. A woman stepped out of the darkness, her hair loose, still holding the torn scroll of blood. Her eyes were cloudy, but there was light in the wetness on her cheeks. "Do you hate me?" For not being able to save your father? For letting Lucy die? For leading you to this point?" Christina screamed, "You betrayed me! You let me live a life of lies! I miss you." She did not deny it. She just collapsed in front of her daughter and whispered, "It takes a trade to close the door to the devil, but I have never regretted having you." Christina stepped forward, putting her hand on her cheek, cold and trembling. "I have no choice." This time, blood flowed from the middle of Christina's forehead, right where the Satanas mark had been. The blade opened completely. The blood tree blossomed. Finally, Christina pushed the blood tree into her heart, but did not die. Instead, the tree blossomed with blood, creating a new blade, the blood tree blade. Christina stood in the darkness. In her hand, she held a red blade. The wood grain stood out like lifeblood, shining with tears mixed with blood. The blind woman from a faraway place spoke. "You have passed through 3 doors: resentment, lies, and betrayal. Not by strength, but by forgiveness. But if you kill him without forgiving yourself, he will live in your hatred. If you die, and your heart no longer hates, he will crumble to ashes." Christina did not answer. She looked at the blade in her hand, now like a part of her flesh and blood. Her eyes were no longer angry. There was only the stillness of someone who knew clearly how to die, to destroy a demon. The morning of the 4th day. The forest mist retreated like a defeated soul. Christina stood in the middle of the ancient stone floor, holding the newly forged wooden blade. The blade was not heavy, but always trembled like a living creature. The master stepped forward. First, his back still hunched, but his eyes as sharp as steel. "The wood blade has not truly recognized you until it cuts your blood. Today it must learn to strike parry and not shake its hand." Christina said nothing. She stepped into a defensive stance, and the red blade oozed a strong woody scent. Blood. The old man did not use a sword, only a staff made of blood sandalwood, which had been carved with runes to imprison Satanas for centuries. The first blow. Christina parried slowly. Her shoulder was torn apart. The second blow. The staff came down on the top of her head. The wood blade's blade made a crack. The blade cracked. "You strike like you want to live. To kill Satanas, you must strike like you are already dead." Christina stood up, unbandaged. Every blow from the master was a call to instinct, but this time there was no hatred to rely on. She struck back with silence. Each time the blade was slashed, there was no blood, only fire. When the blade grazed the master's staff and the staff split in two, the old man stopped, breathing softly. Good, but still not enough. That night, Christina was taken into a cave. No light. The blind woman sat in the middle of the stone, lighting a trembling fire with blood. "What do you see?" she asked. "Nothing," Christina replied. "Good. Now kill me." Christina was stunned. The blind woman smiled, her voice mixed with the wind. "Satanas does not need to appear to kill you. If he cannot strike when he cannot see, you have lost since he was silent." The blade whistled in her hand. Christina stepped forward, eyes closed. She listened not for footsteps, but for the beat of blood. She listened not for breathing, but for intention. The blade struck down, not at her, but at a shadow hidden in the stone ceiling, emerging like a demon's venom. Rocks fell. Demons howled. Christina opened her eyes. The blind woman was still sitting there, smiling fearlessly. "Good. You have learned to cut without your eyes. That was Chapter 9 of Soul Possessor. But the nightmare has just begun. Secrets still hide in shadows. Spirits still hunger. And the demon is not done yet. Stay with us for the next episode. The true horror awaits. Possessor, but the nightmare has just begun. Secrets still hide in shadows. Spirits still hunger. And the demon is not done yet. Stay with us for the next episode. The true horror awaits.
Thank you for listening to Horror Audio Series. If the silence feels heavier tonight, if the darkness lingers longer than usual, you've already opened the door. And something may have followed you through. Don't forget to subscribe. Because next time, it might be your story we tell. Sleep, if you can.